Hello, Alan, friend Generation Tech. Welcome back to another episode. Alan, nailed it. So this Kino Loy jump at the end of episode 10, it's actually a pretty easy question. I remember being a kid watching the behind the scenes video of Andy Serkis in those motion cap suits for The Lord of the Rings. I remember seeing him fully immersed as Smeagol Gollum, and even at that young age, I felt embarrassed for this full-grown man who had to walk around on all fours and pretend to be like this little wretched, twisted, dark hobbit. Now I'm a bit older and I can intellectualize a little bit that, Andy Serkis's role, his performance was actually phenomenal, and that's why he won Oscars for it, I think. But sometimes intellectualizing just means trying to figure out a way to neatly wrap a pile of turds and present it as something else. Years later, I remember seeing Andy Serkis again in Planets of the Apes. By then, Serkis had already fully embraced the motion cap industry and had started his own company called Imaginarium. I also remember seeing Chris Martin and Coldplay do their music video for Adventure of a Lifetime using that studio. Now, having met my fair share of actors and actresses and, kind of understanding the mindset necessary for this profession, I have to say that my understanding of Andy Serkis's motion cap performances has evolved to the point where I have developed a great respect for him as a person, not just as an actor. He was humble enough to take the chances given to him, and he made the most out of it, and in turn, he created something really special. In many ways, he was the individual who would bring honor and prestige to the motion cap industry. He made it something more glamorous and awesome. And look what happened in the last decade or so. We're seeing more and more of Andy Serkis as himself in live action, which is something he's always deserved, I think. And I have to say, in a series that's so far been loaded to the brim with some of the best acting I've ever seen in Star Wars, Andy Serkis's portrayal of Kino Loy somehow manages to rise to the top. Watching Kino Loy give a speech back-to-back with Luthen Rael is something that I never knew Star Wars could actually do, and I am so for it. The drama, the pose, the humanity being portrayed by these masters of their craft is exactly the kind of stuff that the Star Wars franchise deserves. In Rogue One, we saw a glimpse of this with Saw Gerrera and his speech about the desperation of war and the looming death and destruction that waited for him at every corner. Luthen Rael's words show us a man who sacrificed everything in order to pursue his dream of changing the entire galaxy, millions of systems, billions upon billions of sentient beings' lives. And then there's Kino Loy. Although his battle is confined within a much smaller world than Narkina 5 prison, it's no less dramatic and no less awe-inspiring. But before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor for today's video, saber.com. Yeah, I got a deal for Black Friday for these. Ends on November 30th. If you guys buy 2 of any of their lightsabers, you'll get $100 off automatically at checkout. And if you buy 3 of their lightsabers, you'll get $150 off your entire purchase. For those of you who want to purchase just one lightsaber, you can still use our promo code PORG, that's all caps PORG, for 20% off. Saber.com has a great range of different lightsabers, including their dueling sabers that are great for sparring and heavy use, along with their more premium and unique lightsaber hilts and designs that are packed with all sorts of cool functions and are beautiful to take a look at. I love this first on lightsaber because it really fills out the rest of my Jedi costume, which I can easily use to, impersonate a Jedi. You will give me all your credits. Tell me where the spice is. You will honor these expired coupons. You did see me on my comlinks when I crashed through your building in my speeder. These are not the death sticks you're looking for. You will upgrade my Bantha Burger value meal to Emperor size for free. So guys, if you want more information about saber.com, check out the description down below. It's sponsors like this that allow us to continue delivering awesome long-form content that we really like, even though the algorithm does not. Tell me where the spice is. From the second we meet Kino Loy, we can tell he means business. There's steel in his eyes. Combined with his slick back hair and casual swagger, you can tell that in this wretched prison, he's the one who's figured it all out. And when he gives his speech to Cassian Andor,
this is Unit 52D.
My name is Kino Loy. I'm the 52D unit manager. The 49 men in this room answer to me.
you can tell he's probably given the speech dozens, if not hundreds of times.
Level 5, room 2. The D is for day shift.
7 levels of factory, 7 rooms per level, 7 tables per room, 7 men each table.
Now, we don't really know much about Kino Loy's background. Obviously, it's a new character, but Andy Serkis, like any good actor, actually wrote out a background for himself to make it easier for him to get into the role.
He is an intense character, and I think there's a sort of
a natural authority that he has. It was like a kind of a shop steward in a former life, and he has a family. And
Andy Serkis just seems like a really down-to-earth guy, and he's willing to give out all of his secrets, and the fact that he's really, put a lot of effort into this character, written out what his story is, it really does show in his performance. He intimately knows the character very well. Now, as the floor manager, Kino Loy has to maintain good numbers. Andy Serkis says that he's an authoritarian figure. He knows how to keep the factory floor in line. This is a delicate process because the reality is Kino Loy has no real power in the situation. He does not control the electrical buzzer, and aside from him just physically assaulting the other prisoners, well, actually, it's just basically poor Melcy the entire time. Kino Loy's authority comes from just the title alone. It's a dangerous position, and he must be sharp and on point at all times. He can't be a complete brute or tyrant because it's very easy for the other prisoners to just overwhelm him. The Nazis actually used a similar tactic in concentration camps. They would actually turn prisoners into guards. They were known as capos, and there's two reasons why they did this. First, it was because it limited the amount of actual, SS Nazi guards they needed at these prisons. And second, it created division amongst the prisoners because you had them basically guarding each other. On Arkina 5, which is ridiculously understaffed, keeping the prison population separated from the guards is crucial. The prisoners only interact with guards when they arrive and when they leave in a body bag. When the prisoners are shocked, they're shocked by a person they can't really see, and so the only disciplinarian is the floor manager, individuals like Kino Loy.
And he would have fought for workers' rights on the outside, before he was incarcerated, but he would have been seen as a troublemaker for that.
Kino Loy was clearly chosen for this position because he definitely acts and talks and walks like a leader. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Empire had a dossier on him and selected him primarily for this role. The same thing goes for his night shift counterpart, who seems like a stoic and powerful individual who also has very strong leadership qualities. It's very clear that this prison is not for the punishment of criminals, it's really just a labor camp.
So what did you do?
Nothing.
Not of that lately.
It's built specifically for slave labor and the production of whatever these things are. I still think that they're TIE fighter struts, by the way, the thing on the S-foils. What's interesting is what Andy Serkis says about this.
It's really important what they're building. For those who have a keen eye, and who know the lore of Star Wars, will find that the pieces that are being made are...
Okay, stop getting distracted. This prison is designed for labor. It's not designed for punishment. They're not trying to rehabilitate criminals with hard labor here. That's not the point. The idea is to keep the prisoners here as comfortable as possible so they can work for as long as possible. There's no way out. Of course, the capos, just like Kino Loy in this situation, didn't really actually understand what the prisoner guards were up to. They were fed the lie that all the other prisoners were fed as well. Kino Loy's main motivation here is to get out of the prison. He has less than a year left on his sentence, and he believes that all he needs to do is stay on program and everything will turn out to be fine. But the stress of all of this is clearly getting to him. What's interesting here is the fact that we don't really get to see if he has any special privileges or a reduced sentence for meeting certain quotas. We don't even really know what motivates him to take on this crazy position. The guards are clearly pushing all of their responsibilities onto Kino Loy. I mean, not all managerial positions are great. This reminds me of like a retail management job where you have all of the responsibilities and no power to really do anything for the people working underneath you. And on top of all that, Kino Loy is still in this freaking crazy prison, and Andy Serkis kind of talks about how mentally draining it is to be in this place.
We were walking on metal plates for weeks with bare feet, and that sapped your energy. And the costume design, the prison outfits, they're formed in such a way that take away any sense of your own identity.
He also talks about how the cells with their open doors gave them absolutely no privacy, and how this entire process really affected him mentally and allowed him to get into the role. So just imagine what Kino Loy feels. He has to put this face on at all times. He has no privacy. He can never let his guard down, and none of the other prisoners in the room are his equal. The only person that kind of is his peer is the night shift manager. He's basically alone. It's freaking torture. And so when I take a look at Kino Loy, I see an extremely strong man holding things together because that is the image he must present. But beneath the surface, he is ready to explode. And we know this is true because, again, Kino keeps on punching poor Melcy, who's basically like that annoying draft that comes out from beneath the door, He's that constant annoyance for Kino Loy. His incessant remarks about the entire prison being a sham shatters and challenges everything that Kino Loy has worked so hard to build here in the Arkina 5 prison.
What did he say? What happened on to
Yeah, we don't know.
They set them all free.
No one really knows how long Kino Loy's been in this prison. They don't know what he sacrificed to get to this point, to get to this position. And I think the closer he gets to finally seeing his freedom arrive, the crazier and more stressed out he gets because he's so worried that it might not happen.
Something's really wrong on 2.
You haven't got a clue what they are saying. It takes a week for one word to get all the way up here, and you're panicking about something that's happening on the other side of the building.
The more Kino talks in the scene, the more panicked he gets. I mean, it is really just brilliant acting. The barely controlled chaos that is inside of this character is starting to emerge. I do have to say though, I think these kind of, reality shattering moments are good for people in small doses. You should have one every year, and maybe a larger, crisis every 5 years. It keeps you on your toes. But as Andy Serkis says, Kino Loy is not really a slave driver. He doesn't seem to be cruel to the workers. As a matter of fact, all the people in the prison seem like kind people, not psychopaths, not uncontrollably violent individuals with, brain damage. This likely points to the fact that most of these people are either innocent or just non-violent offenders, which again is what you would want inside of a labor prison. I mean, there are violent people in Star Wars, that is clear, and I think Jyn Erso was sent to the violent labor prison. But anyway, take a look at Kino Loy. The only time he uses violence is against Melshi, who again is threatening the fabric of his reality, so I understand why he's doing this. But when it comes to people not working hard, I mean, Kino doesn't hit them or yell at them really. He actually gives them encouragement.
You're just taking a breather. Come on, guys. You got a chance of winning the shift today. It's a shame to waste it.
We also get to see a kinder side of Kino Loy when Olaf begins to struggle a little bit and fall behind. Kino seems to have genuine care about Olaf. He's not just trying to get him to work here. And this is important because Olaf really has the only thing that Kino Loy wants, and that's a ticket out of here. The old man has 40 or so days left on his sentence.
You are the next man out. You are the shortest of the short.
I mean, Kino really needs Olaf to get out of there because I think he genuinely does want to see the old man become free, but he also needs it to prove to everyone in the prison that people are still getting out. He needs to prove to himself that this actually is still happening. And when Olaf has a stroke, Kino Loy shows another deeper, more emotional side to him, the side that he probably isn't allowed to show too often because weakness, again, in prison is not a good idea, and that is his genuine care for the old man. If Kino Loy was actually a labor organizer, it does make sense that he would have great empathy for the workers, for the laborers that, are beneath him. That or he really has, a great desire for power, or maybe both, I don't know.
Hang in there, Olaf. You've only got a few shifts left, and you're going home.
Notice how Kino Loy doesn't say, wake up or stay alive or come back to us. He just keeps talking about, the 40 or so days left.
He's only got 40 shifts left. Just want to get him up and about.
It's not that Kino Loy is being fake compassionate about this and only cares about, getting out of the prison. I think he really does care, but subconsciously, getting out of prison is all he could really think of. Despite all of the layers he's constructed over his personality, this is starting to seep out a lot. And even when he cracks down on Melshi for, saying that something wrong might be happening on level 2, it's not because he wants to stay in prison. He just wants to keep his own avenue of departure open. And that all falls apart if his production quota numbers are not met. I mean, think about the crazy amount of stress placed on his shoulders, how alone he feels as a prisoner. Kino Loy is a tough man, but again, he's been in this prison probably for a really long time, and this mind of a facility is designed to condition you to be afraid of the floors. I mean, so he's basically being turned into an animal slowly through all of the shock therapy here. I mean, it's very hard to fight against this kind of behavior modification, yet Kino Loy snaps out of it relatively quickly, all things considered. The second he finds out that no prisoners are leaving, it just takes a short conversation with Andor and then boom, he's on board.
Every day we wait, they get stronger.
It might be wise to have a plan.
I love how Andy Serkis delivers this line without any kind of sarcasm, really. I mean, it's the words that are sarcastic, I think. I can almost imagine him saying it in Smeagol's voice as well. I don't know why. Also, notice how Andor has become the Luthen Rael in prison. He is the agitator, the virus that will spread rebellion through all of the levels. But the reality is this still isn't Andor's world, no more than the world of thievery and stealing crap from Imperial officers is Luthen's world. No, this is Kino Loy's world.
He's only a doctor, they would never tell him.
No one is getting out!
Some voices you just listen to. Some voices can inspire a bunch of peasants armed with farming tools to hold the line against, a massive cavalry charge full of armored knights. And when Kino Loy opens his mouth, the prisoners on 5-2D all listen. They stop what they're doing. And they wait for him patiently to speak, because Kino Loy demands respect. There is weight in his steps, in his words, and everything he does. And then we hear that voice. I'm not gonna lie, when I was watching that on Wednesday morning, I almost ran out of my apartment half naked, and I was ready to punch the first person I saw in the face. I was so pumped up. I'm not a violent person. I have violent tendencies, and I'm trying to control them. I'm working on it, okay? But this is what happens when perfect casting, storytelling, and acting all align together. It makes people jump off of their couches and go assault their neighbors, I think. There's a reason why many people, including Mao, are saying that this is one of the best episodes so far of the entire Andor series. And all of this is capped off by this amazing speech, where we see Andor looking on at his new disciple, Darth Kino, spreading the virus of the rebellion across the prison. These two men understand each other. They understand what it means to be so cornered, so oppressed, that death no longer makes them afraid.
We are done with counting shifts. There is only then and now. There is only one way out.
He said it! He said it!
Play it how you want. But I'm gonna assume I'm already dead.
And if you think about it, this final speech that Kino Loy gives is a direct result of ideas that Luthen Rael implanted into Andor's head.
Wouldn't you rather give it all at once to something real than carve off useless pieces till there's nothing left?
That message turns into this one that Andor gives to Kino.
I'd rather die trying to take them down than die giving them what they want.
And of course, that message really resonates with Kino, and so he shares it with the entire prison.
And I would rather die trying to take them down than giving them what they want.
So we've taken this character, Kino Loy, and we've completely broken him down. We understand his motivations, his fears, what kind of person he is, what he's made of. And we see this final scene where everyone is jumping down into the water. It's a beautiful shot, beautifully shot scene. And Kino Loy says this line to Andor.
Can't swim!
Clearly not a dolphin. I think it's pretty clear also what Kino Loy does here, right? If you've paid attention in this video, if you know what kind of person Kino Loy is, what he just said in that speech, I really don't think swimming or not being able to swim is going to keep him in this prison.